first of all, thank you for agreeing to sit down and chat with me. I know we've had to reschedule this a couple times, so appreciate the
All good.
flexibility. But yeah, I'm really excited to sit down and chat with you. I think I've talked to a lot of companies at this point, kind of in the fam tech space, and a lot of them are companies that are I don't want to say they're not doing something unique, but they at least fit into a nice box of like, oh, that's like a really specific problem, and here's a solution. And I've done a little research on your company, and it feels very unique and solving, I think, lots of kind of very unique problems that I haven't really seen other companies attempt to solve, or at least in the way that you're doing it. So that might be a good place to start. It's just if you want to give just the very quick kind of introduction to Leaf and what you're
Sure.
building.
Yeah, absolutely. So Leaf is a private audio app, and it's all about really helping people capture the voices and stories they never want to forget. So think everything from like first words, bedtime stories where it's dark and video is not really conducive, car ride chats, birthday wishes year after year to see change over time, all the way through to family history and making sure it's passed along from one generation to the next. And another really top use case is actually precious voicemails that people are afraid to use. So it's this kind of like all in one place for all of your audio memories and making them secure, searchable, and also private to you and your family.
Yeah. And I have a bunch of questions about sort of where the idea came from, how you got
Sure.
started, kind of the origin story of the company. But I don't want to jump to that too quickly. I want to maybe take a little step back and kind of in your story, and just talk a little bit about your background,
Mhm.
previous jobs you've had, and kind of experience that kind of led you to where you are today. And actually, maybe a good place to talk about too is just even going back to like college. I mean, you have a very impressive
Mhm.
resume from some of the education you've had, and kind of I think what that led you kind of into your career. So why don't you talk
Yeah.
about that a little bit?
Sure, sure. I mean, and none of it was very planned, I would say.
Okay.
Things just sort of unfolded. Um, let's see. So, if you want to go back to college, I mean, I would say that a big foundation for me is actually my parents
Hmm.
and just the way I was brought up. They both immigrated from Russia. They gave up their citizenship to be here. They came with nothing, and really just built a life for themselves. They came with $140 literally, and just like
Wow.
some records that they thought were of worth that they could sell, and they created and started a new life here. And growing up, I could see them working really hard, but also obviously they were very present with me and my sister, but really just showed us that hard work and really believing in yourself, and you can really create something from nothing. And so that was like always something that really motivated me and inspired me. And so the funny thing is though, like my mom actually worked for the city of Los Angeles for 30 years. So growing up, I
Mm.
always thought people worked for one organization and then they were loyal to it and
Yeah.
they retired. So kind of this like entrepreneurship or like moving from one company to the next wasn't really top of mind for me at all growing up.
Hmm.
So anyway, that's kind of like a little bit of background. But in the college sense, which you brought up, I went to Berkeley for undergrad. I happened to study business there. I actually was kind of wanted to do the pre-med route, but I was a little afraid of AP Chem at the time, I remember. So I just defaulted into the business path.
Yeah.
I always liked math and strategy and stuff like that. And then I had a friend that was a year older than me that ended up at Google. She told me it was great. She was having a good time. And so I just applied to this finance rotation program that they had just created at the time, and luckily got in. But I really didn't know much about it. I didn't really have a passion for finance. I just,
Hmm.
where Google was great. This was 2007.
Hmm.
And the company, I think, was like about 12,000 employees. So big in the company sense, but relative to where Google is now, like very small and like
Yeah.
more like the Google feel at the time.
Hmm.
Um, so I worked in Mountain View for 4 years, living in SF, doing that commute. And it was fun because I got to experience a lot of different areas within finance, being in the rotation program, which helped me touch like the FP&A side, actually the real estate side of the business, and then most of my time was on the investor relations team, which was really interesting.
Hmm.
So I knew buy side and sell side analysts about total company strategy, and got to travel with our CFO to different places. It was just like a really cool experience. But honestly, my next step was just like Okay, I think a lot of people go to business school after roughly 4 years of work.
Mm-hmm.
I applied to a couple places, got into HBS, and wanted. I thought that would be a really cool opportunity, so I went.
Yeah.
And it was only then actually that entrepreneurship started to become really interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Joined a bunch of the entrepreneurship clubs. I kind of managed the new venture competition for a couple of years, even during school and then after. And I interned for a Techstars backed company while there. So it kind of like gave me a feel for being in a tiny team and getting to do a bunch of different things versus at Google, where you're kind of in one role and your scope is a lot more limited. Even just for this like tiny startup, I got to do product
Mm-hmm.
strategy work, BD. It was just a lot more fun. So that got me really excited about it. That being said, I still went back to Google after grad school,
Mm-hmm.
worked at YouTube. So I had a couple different experiences across strategy, operations, and partnerships, which is great. But I started to like feel like I just had this itch to leave and do something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I didn't really know what to do. And so I had all these ideas percolating, and some I thought were maybe could be real businesses, but I didn't have a passion for the idea. And
Mm-hmm.
then others were like these tiny, fun ideas that I had, but like I didn't think could actually become a sustainable business.
Yeah.
And Leaf was the first one where I actually thought it could be both. Like I was really excited about it. It's a tool my family uses a ton. And I think it could become something real. So that was kind of the background story there.
Yeah. I imagine maybe working at Google and just being around, maybe not directly, but indirectly, probably a lot of entrepreneurial folks. Did you have other people kind of close to you, kind of doing that, where you saw a little bit of a playbook of at least here's how I might get started?
Less so at the Google stage, but definitely after business school.
Hmm.
A lot of my classmates ended up starting a business. Some had really successful exits. Others were like in the VC or PE. Where like a lot of people touch like this entrepreneurial
Yeah.
space. And so there were so many people that I was able to reach out to, especially because I started Leaf 10 years post business school. So at that point, many people were able to help guide me and give me good advice or connect me with people that might, know where to lead me. So that
Hmm.
was,
Yeah, and I've heard that a bunch. Business school. If you like going to get your MBA from certain programs, definitely not
Mhm.
all. That oftentimes it's like sometimes just the connections that you make there of just connecting with the other people in the program
Yeah.
is for some people just as valuable as maybe the degree and what they end up doing with it.
Yeah. I mean, the classroom experience was awesome. The professors were really top notch and incredible. And I remember very specific cases and things like that. But to your point, the people were amazing. And my section of 90 students had 30 countries represented. So it's just
Oh
like
wow.
incredibly global. And, now when you travel and there's always people to reach out to and everyone's just so
Hmm.
warm and it responds within like an hour of an email. Everyone wants to help. So
Yeah.
it's like a really really great community.
Yeah. And I always like asking this question because ultimately, the business that you gravitated towards and saw, the passion and the clear path was
Yeah,
Leaf. But
yeah,
leading up to that, do you remember what were some of the ideas you kicked around that maybe didn't
yeah.
last very long?
It's funny. I actually was like really didn't want to do an app or a digital product. I was very excited about
Okay.
something like physical, tangible. You can go to a store, pick it up off the shelf.
Hmm.
I had a big passion for sports. I still do, but I would like for a while. I really wanted to work. I wanted to be the my business school essay was about being the first general manager in the NBA, the first female general manager.
Oh, okay.
Really like sports stuff and basketball in particular. Anyway, so some of my ideas were more in like the sports world, and there's one that I remember pretty well, which was I was very annoyed after working out that you put your like stinky clothes in a bag and then you go to your office and you work and
Hmm.
it's for like 8 or 9 hours and then you
Oh,
go
yeah.
home. So I was thinking about different like solutions to like air it out, and but that was like very technical and
Hmm.
more sciencey than I think my
Yeah.
to tackle. There were things with like foot inserts, like all things that were related to like exercise and stuff like that. And then actually on the other side of it, there's this salad called vinaigrette that my grandma used to make. It's this like Russian salad
Mm-hmm.
that it's like a pain to make, but
Mm.
it's really, really delicious. So I actually made some samples and was thinking about going the farmer's market route and gave it to a couple of people to sample and rank it. But at the end of the day, I was like, I don't want to boil beets every day for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So that was killed pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny when the classic example that I give to everyone is like if you had just picked, when you're picking college or where you end up going, like
Yeah,
that decision could have this like massive impact on the direction of your life. And
100%.
then now talking to lots of entrepreneurs, I love asking that question because it's sort of weird to think about if you had some like really amazing signal that one of those other businesses was a massive opportunity.
Right,
Like what
right.
would it look like if you pursued some of those? So
Yeah,
it's always just kind of interesting to see how wide and broad some of the ideas are.
yeah, definitely.
So remind me again around what around the time you were kind of again just very early kicking around this idea. It
Yeah.
might not even have been an idea for a business yet, but it was just like, oh, it'd be great if this thing existed. What, like, around when was that happening?
Yeah, it was about 2021 or so. I was still at Google.
Okay.
And so I was actually like very, very slowly chipping away at this idea at night, but had two very young kids at the time, like 3 and 1 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was, this like hard to do that much productively. So,
Yeah.
but it actually started out with a website. The idea was more about storing recordings that people had that were kind of just like sitting in a Google Drive folder and no one was listening to them and making sure that these recordings were passed along. And the thought was like, there's all these tools these days with transcription, translation, summarization that can make it a much better experience than just a recording in a folder on your computer.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it started. But then the idea was like, okay, if you could upload these recordings, it'd be cool to also create new ones. And you're not going to whip out your desktop computer to do a recording on the go.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's like, okay, clearly this needs to be a mobile app. And then we shifted a bit to create an app instead.
Yeah. And from looking at the website, and there are, I feel like a lot of kind of different um, use cases of ways that people could use the
Yeah.
platform. Did you kind of have a sense like early on that's sort of the direction it would go, that you would kind of be able to add different, maybe not even features, but just
Mhm.
different ways that you could kind of market the platform?
So I went into it thinking it would be more about capturing the generation that's older than you.
Hmm.
So more from like a deeper conversation, family history perspective. But what actually happened, and what I've noticed myself as probably one of our heaviest users, is
Hmm.
that it's really hard to sit down and have a more serious conversation and ask these questions about your parents' childhood, or if you're lucky enough to have a grandparent alive, like all those questions about their history and their hardships and their successes, like all that stuff. It's tough. And the reason I really like audio is because video is another level of friction. And so I think audio is a lot easier to have that conversation.
Yeah.
No one cares what they look like. And, the audio quality is much better because you can have the recorder right there. You don't have to, angle it in a certain way. So there's a lot of things that remove that friction. So that's one thing that I thought would happen there. But in reality, it's still hard. And that conversation might happen every 6 months or a year, right?
Hmm.
What I found surprisingly once we launched was that parents with young kids are our most active users. And that's because they love that it's audio only. There's no screen
Hmm.
in their kid's face. Screens interrupt a moment. The second you put a screen on, in front of a kid, they're like, "Let me see," or they want to watch the recording that you just did,
Hmm.
and it changes the moment. And so, and coupled with the fact that kids' voices change so quickly, they pronounce words in a really sweet way for a short period of
Hmm.
time. There's like all these moments that parents want to capture and remember.
Yeah.
And they think they'll remember, but if they don't capture them, they're going to forget. And so, parents with young kids are now our target audience. And then the thought is that they'll capture on a more regular basis their kids, share those recordings with broader family so they feel connected. And then
Hmm.
on those one-off times, like every 6 months or so, or hopefully, more frequently, capture their own parents or other broader family as well.
Yeah, yeah, and I think we may have talked about this before, but my daughter at 1 year when I don't remember how old she was. It was a couple years ago, so she might have been two or
Mhm.
three, and it was Halloween, and she was just basically repeating the names of all the candies that she got for Halloween, and it's when she couldn't hardly pronounce anything, and
Yeah, that's cute.
it's like the cutest video and maybe my favorite video of all time, and but it's for that exact reason of what you just said. It was like when she was, had the cute little kid voice and
Hmm.
kind of not quite ready to say some of the words, but really trying. And
Right.
that's the kind of thing my wife and I always talk about, that if we had a top 10, videos or little audio things that we want to keep. Now, I'm sure the problem you're solving is we've got like some on my phone, some are on, my wife's phone, some
Right,
are,
right.
stored, on a computer or on maybe we're not really on social media, but it might be some other kind of third party. So they're kind of spread out. So
That's
it sounds like
right.
that's where you probably have kind of struck a chord with parents because it's pulling all that stuff together.
Exactly. And we're trying, I mean, we are audio focused, but you can't upload video content and we'll strip the audio. So
Hmm.
if just like the voice part of it is the most important, or maybe it's like a blurry video or you want to
Yeah.
clear up space, because videos take up so much space,
Yeah.
leaves an option to upload it there as well.
Yeah. But if I think about it, it is a bigger part of it is probably the audio, just because that, like you said, it like until you have like a really little kid, you're never really prepared for how quickly some of that can change, and then
Yeah,
before you know it, you're
absolutely.
like, oh wow, they're not saying that one word that way anymore, or their voice
Right.
sounds a little bit different. So
Exactly.
I could see the audio part of that.
What's been a kind of fun thing that I didn't expect at all is that kids really enjoy hearing their own recordings. And so
Mm.
it's now become like a family activity for us where we'll do a recording and then immediately it kind of same as a video, but they're like, I want to hear it. And so we play it. And now in the car, they'll, instead of like requesting Moana music, they'll be like, let's listen to a Leaf recording about X or Y,
Hmm.
and it's really fun. And what's kind of like an added benefit of that I've recently kind of researched is there's actually a lot of really great developmental benefits for kids of hearing their own voice,
Mm.
from a confidence perspective, from kind of like like identifying, oh, that's me, and then kind of building like language. And so there's a lot of really cool, interesting things that it's like a very playful way to learn in a way.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. Both of my kids, my son or my daughter and my son, uh, have this thing because they've grown up around smartphones. Obviously,
Yeah.
they're only
Right.
5 and 3, and they know, they're like, "Hey, can we look at pictures?"
Hmm.
And when they say that, they mean, "Can we open up the photo app on your phone and just scroll through old pictures and videos of us?" And they'll kind of know to, "Oh, I want to scroll back to when I was a baby," and then
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
a weird way, you're seeing a 5-year-old being nostalgic about being a baby, which is wild to
Yeah.
me as a kid of the 80s and 90s, where
Yeah. You couldn't just like see what you were like, right?
yeah,
Like it
that I
was
mean that just
real.
like didn't even exist in any form. So
Right. Right.
it's just like everything with technology. It's I think it's super interesting of like you said, how that might impact their development, in
Hmm.
probably in a positive way.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So when it came time for you to like really kind of put pen to paper, and and maybe you didn't do some of this right away, but like a formal business plan, or maybe just a plan of like, okay, I'm just going to go start building something and figure out some
Mhm.
of this as I go. Like what did that look like? Like what were you doing first? Did you do any uh, market research outside of yourself and knowing, oh, I would love to have something like this? Did you
Yeah.
talk to other families? Like what did you do first?
Yeah, a couple things. So definitely talk to a bunch of people. The trouble with talking to family and friends is like you're not going to get the real answer, but the
Yep.
general sentiment across folks we talked to was yes, like the voice is so powerful. I have all like people have recordings they want to keep. Voicemails was a really common theme that I actually had never thought about, but roughly 50% of the people we spoke to had voicemails they were really afraid to lose on their phone, and actually had lost some previous ones. And so that was
Hmm.
very top of mind. And so it was definitely, but the conversations were very much on the family history side and not on the kid capturing side.
Yeah.
So that's why that was like a newer insight once we were actually out in the market. But the resounding answer was like, this sounds great. Like, I would love to capture these stories. I wish I had done it with my grandmother before she passed away. I wish I had a tool to do this. And video would be really tough. So I totally understand why audio would be great. So there was like kind of that confirmation. I did some like surveys of random people. I used SurveyMonkey and got like a decent sample set to see what people, if they'd be willing to pay for a product like this, and price point. I forget whose framework I used, but it was someone that was on Lenny's podcast. I'm a big listener. I don't know if you listen to
Mm.
his podcast. It's great. But
Yeah.
they some monetization expert that talked about how to price your business and
Oh,
whatever. So
gotcha. Yeah.
I but basically like did a couple different checks. But all that being said, we didn't really build the app until gathering a bit more data than just talking to people. I actually ran some like very cheap Google ads
Hmm.
um, just to see who would click on them, to understand who's our target audience, what language is kind of landing with people. And that gave us a sense of like what the app should feel like, kind of like how simple it should be. I mean, simplicity is always going to be important, but like at the time, I actually thought our audience would be older.
Hmm.
So like very simple, especially if it's an app, like which is it kind of intimidating for
Yeah.
people. Had to be like very obvious of how to use it. And so that was kind of like those were all helpful inputs and very low cost for us as we were bootstrapping. So that was good.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And that's advice I give to a lot of clients, because the idea of just like running ads, I think everybody immediately thinks, oh, I have to have, a product. I have to
Yeah,
have
the landing page.
a website where they could buy something. I have to
Right.
be buttoned up. I have to, do a bunch of testing. It doesn't make sense unless I'm spending over X dollars. And the example I give, I mean, it is like a huge example, um, but um, Liquid Death, the can,
Mhm.
water company, that I think that was how they got their start. Is they just
Yep.
ran some Facebook ads, and
Yeah.
a bunch of people said they were interested. And they're like, oh, okay, let's go quickly
Right.
can a
Right.
bunch of water so we have something to sell them. And so that's an example that's obviously turned into like $1 billion company, but
Yes. Yes.
that's such a smart thing of just running ads and seeing what it looks like, what it feels like, who responds to it, like putting it out in the wild.
Exactly.
And more than anything too, it's like that mentality of, don't wait till something's perfect and just get it out there and see what people say. And
Right.
if it's
Right.
if you have to fix it or tweak it later, like obviously you're always going to have to do that. So might as well, get a little
Yeah.
feedback. And that's a quick way to do
Ex-
it. You could spend a couple $100 and get a lot of great information.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
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 Um, do you remember? Was there anything beyond, like you said, maybe the age of the people who were interested in it? Were there Was there anything else that you kind of took away from that, or
Some of the I remember some of the words keywords were like more around saving voicemails.
mhm,
Some were like we thought at the very early days. I was thinking about partnering with digitizing services
mhm,
because that's where people are already going. They have these recordings. They want them to be digitized.
yeah,
But really, what you get is like a thumbnail, like a thumb drive. So
mhm,
it's still probably going to sit in a folder and not be shared with family and friends,
mhm,
or transcribed and summarized, etc. A lot of them are like mom and pop shops, and it was like a little tough to crack. But I was at the time I was testing like digitize people who already had recordings because I figured this would be a place for them to upload. So trying to get a sense for like what people would be interested in.
mhm,
I don't know that it necessarily led us. It obviously didn't lead us down to the path of like parents recording their kids,
yeah,
um, but it gave us enough confidence that there's interest here, and we should try to build this.
yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Sometimes what you end up learning is just enough to keep going.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
main thing
Right.
is that you didn't see some massive red flag or a barrier that's like, oh, we didn't think about that till just now. And
Right.
so if that doesn't come up, at the very
Yeah.
least, yeah,
Might as well try.
maybe it says keep going.
Yeah.
What was sort of the next kind of few steps you took? Was it
Yeah.
doing some more research? Was it building a website? Was it or just starting to build the platform?
Yeah, so I mean, it did start like with a on desktop, like I mentioned, which is a website about uploading, and then we did recording there, and then it just felt like you need
Hmm.
this to be on the go.
Yeah.
I think one big decision was to build on Flutter, and that was so that we could launch on Android and iOS at the same time. I think
Hmm.
most companies, I would say, or maybe not most, but a large portion, or they build on iOS first,
Hmm.
and try to perfect that, and then later launch on Android. iOS is just extremely expensive in terms of getting new users, from like
Hmm.
an ads perspective. Um, and there's nothing that's like US or English specific about Leaf where I mean Android has 80% market share. And I'm an old Googler, so obviously I still
Hmm.
have an Android device, which is probably pretty rare. I'm like that annoying, texter that no one
Yeah.
wants. But I just feel like there's a lot of power in scale and early on understanding how people are using the product. So I think it was really beneficial for us to build on Flutter. That way we could get a lot more users on the Android side early on and see how people were using the app. And that's how we quickly understood that parent-child use case.
Hmm.
And I think it would have taken us probably months longer to get that information if it were only on iOS.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, and when you say us, at that point, were you partnering with anybody or sort of?
Yeah, we have no employee, so just contractors.
Mhm.
I found someone really great who we're still with on through Well Found, which is like formerly Angels List.
Mhm.
Um, but it's like a very time. We had a friend. I had a friend that was working with us in the beginning, but had a full time job as well.
Mhm.
But it's just people that are like excited about the idea.
Yeah.
But I think like the benefit of a product like Leaf is you don't need a lot of capital to get going, and
Mhm.
so trying to maintain this like scrappy bootstrap feel as long as we can.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, as a result of that, did you run? What were some of the challenges you ran into in those like very early days of building and?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first app was like embarrassingly bad. The first version, I didn't really know what the bar was to even get accepted to the App
Yeah.
Store.
Mhm.
But like it was so slow to load, like
Yeah.
all these things. I was too embarrassed to even talk about it with anybody. So it
Yeah.
was several months later that we launched the next couple iterations, and that
Yep.
felt like a real product, and that's where I went more public with it.
Yeah.
Um, but I would say, like, I think some of the challenges from a bootstrapping perspective are a space or a couple things. Like, one is that now that I know once I found out who our target audience was, parents are really busy, especially parents with young kids. And there's a trillion products that are calling their name and trying to get their attention.
Mhm.
So it's really hard to get their attention and get them to try something new when they're juggling a million things every day.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely one challenge. Another one is that audio is a really big behavior shift for a lot of people. I think some people like understand it immediately. They love podcasts, they understand the power of the voice, like they
Mhm.
really love being on the go and be able to listen to things. While others, the immediate question is like, why is it not video? Like I only do video, I only take
Yeah.
photos. I'm not going to do audio. And like, cool, I totally get that as well. So there's like this kind of behavior shift and kind of education that we have to provide. Once we explain the benefits of audio, of like, oh, you can be in the car, you can be in the dark during bedtime, or they're singing a song and you don't want to interrupt the moment. They're kind of like, oh, okay, like that makes sense. But it's not
Mhm.
really obvious why audio can be better than video in certain instances. Um,
Mhm.
so that's like another challenge and hurdle for us, that we have to
Mhm.
overcome.
Yeah, I could see both sides of it. That a lot of people are just sort of tuned to think of stuff in terms of video and images because you think about where everybody spends all their time is like social media, and that's really all you see is
Right.
video and images. Um,
Exactly.
but then again, to me, my brain immediately goes to, well, then that's an opportunity because you can kind of carve out this really unique space and kind of get to own all of those like really kind of unique benefits of like audio only, which are kind of obvious when you kind of start thinking about it. But
Yeah.
that probably gets to your challenge you talked about of first of all just reaching parents in the first place,
Right. Right.
educating them about some of this stuff. What were some of the things that that you did or tried that kind of help? And I'm sure it's an ongoing thing for you, but like,
Yeah.
what were some of the things you tried that worked a little bit, or maybe didn't, and you learned from it?
Yeah. I mean, I think some things that we've been trying, I think, are helping our way more communication with our users of like, here's some things you could like being like, some people want to be very prescriptive. Like they don't want a blank slate. They're like, I want to do this, but I don't know what to record. So it's just like being loud and, even though like not everyone obviously opens your emails. So that's why you have to send sometimes more, unfortunately.
Hmm.
But like some email, some outreach is focused on like, here's 9 things that you can ask your kids this weekend, right? And it's like literally a script of what you could say.
Hmm.
Others are like, oh, Mother's Day is coming up. Your mom would love to hear from you. Like just like giving people ideas of what you can do, and just kind of like being an ongoing, like don't forget about Leaf, right? Like otherwise if you don't use it, you probably won't try,
Yeah.
you won't remember to do it. Because I think like generally the feedback we get is, oh, I wish I had captured like like what my daughter said last night, or she's saying something so funny right now, she can't say piano, she says like in a different, like things like that. They're like, but I forgot to use Leaf, right? So it's like, how do we stay top of mind? It's still a challenge, so that we're trying to fix. um I think like another thing is just sharing it. It's very grassroots, but like sharing recordings with my broad family and friends, and like then
Hmm.
they get these examples of like, oh, that's so sweet, and like then they use it and then they share it. So it's like naturally a viral product in a sense. And then
Hmm.
smaller, like it's your close inner circle. It's obviously not a broad social network intentionally.
Hmm.
Um, but it's kind of like getting people to remember what it's all about.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. And I sort of, as you were talking, I think about, there, it's a weird connection, but there is one. Like when I work with clients and they're, trying to figure out how do I create, content to help
Hmm.
promote my business or my product, and they'll find out like, oh, we had this event at the office, and then with customers, and then we went and saw it to this conference, and we came back, and then it's like after the fact, I'm like, oh, like there were so many different opportunities as you were just kind of living your life and running your business of like, if you had known, or there's some kind of a trigger to go, oh, we should capture this moment with this customer, or oh, we should,
Hmm.
capture this testimonial from somebody that we were already talking to. And then you think
Yeah.
about after the fact of like, oh, we wouldn't have really had to do that much different, but if there were the little reminders or triggers or
Right.
muscle memory of knowing, when to kind of capture that stuff. Now that's obviously for like marketing, but it's kind of the same principle. I feel like with families that they
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
not changing too much about how they're, living their life or engaging with their kids, but it's just kind of a little bit of learning here and there of kind of when to utilize the platform.
Exactly. And like a small example is notifying the parent when it's their kid's birthday, right? Within the app, and being like, here's 5 questions you can ask, and stuff like that. So it's like these
Yeah.
milestone events where people want to capture like the first day of school or like people take these pictures and compare over time. But it'd be
Hmm.
so cool to have the actual like, what did they sound like? What was their like what were their hobbies at the time? Like just a little more color, than just the photo.
Yeah. Um, yeah. And then the other thing I think of first, and this is probably one of the like very emotional kind of use cases where you're projecting way out into the future of like
Yeah.
somebody using your platform. There was a very very viral video where, and I'm not even allowed to talk about it with my wife because she gets all choked up and teary. But it's like when I'm 80 and I get to wake up and I woke up and I'm in my 30s and my kids are little and I get to hear them talk, and
Yeah.
so like that mindset of just thinking forward, of having a place where it's more than, I mean, the videos and the images are great, and because of social media and technology, like we'll have all that as like older parents, but
Yeah.
having something that's like a little bit more, uh, I don't know if raw is the right like way to
Yeah.
say it, but
I think that's
something that
right.
puts you more in the moment of where you were, more than maybe just a video or an
Definitely.
image.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I think of first as you're talking, and I'm
Yeah.
sure that's part of it, but probably a hard thing to communicate. Probably, I'm
Yeah, it's
guessing.
like anything where the future value, like where the values in the future is really hard. As you think about like weight loss and like all these things are like, if you do like a little bit every day, you're going to benefit down the road. But when people don't see benefit that day, is
Yeah.
hard. So that's why we're thinking about kind of like, I love how I use Google Photos. I don't know if you use Apple Photos, but like these kind of like looking back over time, stitching photos together. Like I would love to stitch audio together over time. It could be of a specific person. It could be of like a family album. I think there's a lot of neat things that we can do, as people have more and more recordings for themselves.
Yeah. Um, and then the other question I had, and this is
Yeah.
another one I ask pretty much every founder, is as you're, getting the product out there and you're getting users. I mean, even if you have like a couple users or you have a couple hundred, have you had any particularly, you know, interesting or eye-opening insights of just like talking to customers, hearing how they're using it,
Yeah.
putting it in their hands, and just sort of getting some feedback and go, oh wow, I maybe wouldn't have realized that without like literally having a conversation with them.
Yeah, I would say some new use cases that I would have not necessarily thought about have come to light from these
Hmm.
conversations, like people uploading or recording their own poetry and sharing it with their family and
Mm.
friends, singing, like testing out very like for artists.
Mm.
They have a thought in the middle of the night, do a recording, think about it, like listen to it later. Just these kind of like, it's really low friction, right? You just do a recording, you don't have to share it with anybody. It's
Hmm.
there, it's stored in the cloud, it's all safe. So these like kind of voice forward, like poetry, music, singing songs, playing something. Those are kind of, I like thought about them, but like actually seeing, hearing about them in the real world is kind of interesting.
Hmm.
Another one that's come up more recently is recording lectures. Maybe it's because of the start of the school year, but
Mm.
some people are using Leaf to record a lecture. They get a transcript with a summary with timestamps so that you can go specifically into one area. So I know there's other tools for that, so we're not really focusing on that market, but it's interesting to see some people using it that way.
Hmm.
And so those are kind of some of the insights I would say from people directly.
Hmm. Yeah. And then as you're kind of picking up on some of the stuff that's different ways people are using it, and ways that you probably knew they would use it, but maybe the frequency is maybe a little bit different than what you thought.
Yeah.
Is that, how much of that are you conscious of, like going back to the the foundation like of the company and the brand and the story, and like how you position it, how you talk about it,
Hmm.
the really simple kind of elevator pitch, or the 5 second rule of like somebody comes to the website and in 5 seconds they get what you do.
Right.
How much of that, or how frequently are you kind of revisiting that? Do you feel like that's sort of built in a way that can continue to work as you're kind of learning all these different things over time?
Yeah. I would say we did kind of like a bigger refresh a few months ago of the website and just like our messaging overall. Where we landed was really around this like private audio app where you can about capturing voices and stories. So voices is a little like more fun for like it could be like a song or like something small, but stories could be a little bit heavier and like more family history.
Hmm.
I think that kind of captures a lot of the different use cases, but what we really focused on was showing people these various use cases front and center, like the first words, the bedtime stories, the precious voice. Those are all like quite different. Leading with definitely the like parent young kid use case because that's way more frequent. But
Hmm.
kind of highlighting these other things that we can do.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, I'm sure it'll evolve over time, but I think generally from like, given we're bootstrapping, the challenge is obviously money and marketing is very expensive.
Yeah.
So we don't have the luxury to test messaging across all the different use cases. We're really
Yeah.
trying to focus in one space.
Hmm. Right. And I think you're exactly right. You kind of have to. There's not really you don't
Yeah,
really have an option at that point.
right.
But when you are bootstrapped and kind of trying to be very scrappy and as efficient as possible, what are some of the things that kind of help you, work for you? Is it focusing on just one a platform or one channel, or
Yeah.
what have you found that kind of works for you right now?
The strategy was try a bunch of different ones and then only do the one that was working the best.
Hmm.
We've tried Facebook for whatever reason, it wasn't sticking. I
Hmm.
don't know why. I tried Reddit. Google Ads has honestly been the best for us, maybe because Androids we can target specific users in that way. But we've seen really nice growth both in the U.S. and outside the U.S., which is exciting. Um, Other things that we're doing, I mean, definitely exploring partnerships with other companies that are already creating content, but then it kind of just like sits in their own world or like it gets emailed to people. So this is a nice place where people can upload the recordings and have it alongside their other things. So trying to think about different things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then we also launched a couple, like it's been a little bit of time now. It's something called albums, which is shareable by design. And like what it is it's basically a way to celebrate milestone occasions with other people. It's kind of like a surprise gift for somebody. So say it's your, like if someone in your family's 70th birthday, you want all their friends and family to wish them a happy birthday.
Mm.
We collect recordings from everybody. It's all automatically organized into one sort of like
Mm-hmm.
stream, and then it's gifted to that person on that specific date. And so
Mm.
think like baby showers, birthdays, weddings, teacher appreciation. There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
ways to bring a lot of people together, and it's free to contribute. And so it's kind of like a cool way to for people to learn about Leaf and also gift something that's pretty meaningful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, yeah, and that, I mean, that makes total sense. I didn't even think of this just now, but my uncle, I mean, this was like many years ago at this point, was having a birthday, and his family, my cousins had sort of reached out and said, "Hey, we're trying this kind of interesting thing where we want everyone to record like a short little video,
Uh
and
huh.
we're gonna stitch them all together, and here's kind of
Yeah.
like here's and they were like very creative about it. Like here's a specific prompt
Uh
for
huh.
how you would
Exactly.
tell your funny little story,
Yep.
and it was very cool. It was something
Yeah.
that they just kind of did on their own, but I could see putting some structure around it and
Yeah. No, it's
integrating it.
I've definitely done that on my own, and very much leaning on my husband because he's more techie than me. But
Yeah,
like when you do that on your own, you get a text with a video, you get an email. It's a different
yeah,
format than it's like it's awesome the actual outcome, but it's a
yeah.
lot of work. And so this was another way to do that in a very easy way. It's like you just invite people, they do the recording on their own, then
Hmm.
that's it. You don't have to do anything else.
Yeah,
But yeah, there's benefits to both for sure.
yeah, yeah. And then going back just a little bit when you were talking about testing out different, platforms or different channels to focus on and kind of finding the ones that worked. Did you did you land on kind of because like almost everything in marketing is content marketing. I think it's like silly
Mhm.
to call content marketing its own thing now because to me that's like what all of marketing is these days. It seems like. Um, did you spend a lot of time kind of thinking through? Okay, our audience, like you said in the very beginning of this conversation, they're very busy. It's kind of hard to
Mhm.
reach them. We have, in a way, sort of maybe two slightly different audiences. Um, all right, where do they spend their time? Okay, we kind of know
Yeah,
the platform, but like, what kind of content are they interested in that's going to cut through the noise? I mean, to me, that's like 99% of the challenge. And
for
then
sure.
kind of the easy part, well, not really easy, but it's like okay, we kind of have a plan and marching orders to go create a bunch of this content. How much of that did you test or play with, or is it? I'm sure you're still doing it because that's a never ending process.
Yeah.
How much of the time are you thinking about that?
I'm not thinking about it on a daily basis. Kind of like goes in ways of like create some new content, test it out, and then sort of
Yeah.
because it takes time to see if it's working or not.
Hmm.
I this is where like hiring like project based people, not employees, but just like
Yeah.
a contractor for a specific thing is where it's been really helpful because that's certainly not an area of expertise for me. So I worked with someone who was like a Facebook expert. Part of that was creating various different videos that we could test and see which ones were sticking, which ones weren't,
Hmm.
as well as like headlines, descriptions, and stuff like that. Um, and then I can use those videos across other platforms as well. So it's not like it's just for or
Yeah.
Meta. Sorry, I still have a hard time calling it Meta.
Yeah. Same here.
So I worked with like more professional people for stuff like that, and at the same time created my own content. It's pretty simple to do something like that in Canva or using a lot of these different AI tools. A lot of them
Hmm.
don't feel like Leaf is such an emotional product, and if like I don't think AI voices work for something like this. Has to
Right.
feel like very authentic.
Yeah.
So that's where I struggle on like going the very, very scrappy route. So
Hmm.
we are using like real people and things like that and a real story. So,
Hmm.
um, but it's not an area that we're like have tested a million things just because it is really expensive, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned this earlier, where you have sometimes use your own, personal stories about how you use it, probably even sometimes the actual use cases. How much do you think about, marketing growth being sort of uh, uh, like a founder led brand, and having you be very
Yeah.
present and part of it? Like, do you think about that a lot? Is that something you are comfortable with? Do you
Yeah. It's
wrestle
very
with it? Because a lot of founders do.
Yeah, I'm not I like audio for a reason. I'm not like really let's be in the video in the limelight type
Yep.
person. I've
Yep.
never posted a photo of our kids on any social media. So like
Yep.
I like the like and that's why I like Leaf. Like it's like private. It's very
Yep.
much about your inner circle that you trust. So I have a hard time kind of like being out there.
Hmm.
But I have like stretched myself more than I am comfortable. Like I have done Instagram videos to talk about our story and things like that. Because I do think that as a parent with young kids and as like someone who uses the product a ton, I really
Hmm.
understand the use cases and I understand our user base.
Hmm.
So I do think it's important for me to talk about that. And I actually like can give people lots of ideas of how to use the product
Yeah.
as such a heavy user. So it's a balance. I've never shared recordings of our kids or anything like that. I think that would be like very much leaning into it. And I think
Yeah.
that would probably be quite powerful. But there's just like I don't know, it doesn't feel right, so I'm not gonna cross that
Hmm.
line.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Anytime kids are part of it, that's where it's uncomfortable enough as a founder of a company to like put your face out there and be in front of
Right.
people and videos and stuff. And I guess maybe there are examples of companies where the kids could kind of get involved, and every example is unique. But
Totally.
that
Yeah.
would be something that would be kind of tough to to think about. Okay, is it you just doing it just now? How much of
Right.
this do you
Right.
do when you stop? Yeah, all those questions.
Yeah.
The other question I was going to ask you, and I would not be a good business marketing podcaster if I didn't ask about AI a little bit.
Hmm.
How much of the work that you're doing, whether it's marketing or just behind the scenes stuff,
Yeah.
using AI to be more efficient, and then I am sort of trying to predict and how you would answer this. I don't really see a clear way that AI would be integrated into the platform, but maybe there is stuff that you think about.
Yeah.
Where do you see AI playing a role?
Yeah, so it actually is integrated to the product. I don't like market as an AI company because
Sure.
it's not,
Yeah.
and it's also like not personal at all. I think, and
Yeah.
that's like complete opposite of Leaf, but it's a helpful tool, I guess, in the background. So we use it for question prompts for people. So you could say like,
Hmm.
"I'm talking to my grandma. She's 80," and then it'll spit out different
Okay. Yeah.
topics that you can discuss for the people that don't want a blank slate. We also use it to transcribe every recording. We cover 30 languages, and then use it to summarize the recording. And so there's 5 key takeaways at the top of the recording, at the top of the transcript with timestamps, and that's all driven by or because of AI. So
Hmm.
it's really helpful in that sense. But it's nothing that's like front and set. It's like you just notice it because it's helpful in the product itself. It's not like
Hmm.
here's the AI part. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, from a work perspective, I found it helpful on the research side actually, in like understanding childhood development stuff. Like obviously, you have to like check resources, sources, and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But just in terms of like hearing their voices, language development, like I've gotten into a kind of deep research on that kind of stuff, which has been really interesting. Certainly, like the more obvious use cases of like checking my emails and like the brainstorming buddy and stuff like that,
Hmm.
which has been really helpful, but those are not like probably that unique of use cases.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and then the other question I was going to ask, and oh man, it completely escaped me. It was building off of the AI stuff you're talking about. Um, but if it was any good of a question, then I guess it'll come back to me.
Sure.
I guess the question I have that I definitely wanted to ask is, it seems to me that what you've built could evolve quite a bit. Like as people use it longer, I'm
Hmm.
sure other use cases become more prevalent, and you get more users, and they're just naturally just feels like the kind of thing that could evolve quite a bit, and you just have to kind
Yeah.
of see where it goes and put the user and like the customer at the center of making decisions around the product. But some of the things that you are either excited about as you kind of look to the future, or are there predictions you're making? Either of those that you're comfortable sharing here. Like, what do you kind of think about when you look forward?
Yeah. I mean, I think like I referenced it a bit earlier, but kind of this like stitching audio together over time, I think is really compelling and interesting. I think like right now we're doing very kind of basic things to help people have value in the product over time and kind of see like when you listen back, it's really comforting, rewarding, just like fun to hear. By these like, oh, last month, here's what you recorded, or here's what we shared with you. Then a year ago, here's also kind of like what you recorded. But it's like all through email and not very elegantly presented. And so I think like actually pulling out interesting clips from recordings over time could be a really cool thing to do for our users.
Mm-hmm.
There's also just like smaller things that I'd like to do to make it easier, the whole experience easier. Like for example, when you save a recording, you title it. I personally like titling my own because then I'll know what to search for and whatever. But like
Mm.
a lot of people might just like leave it as September 18th recording, whatever,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
which makes it not searchable and not really good. So I think like that's another place where AI could be kind of cool is auto name recordings for people and just make things just a lot easier and faster. Just removing as much friction as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, kind of like the vision of this like one place, one home for all of your voice memories is really what I want to work towards.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It makes sense. I could imagine trying to search for, uh, when was the date when my daughter was doing all the cute like Halloween candy audio, and it's like,
Right.
but if I could just search for Halloween candy, boom, shows up in half a second, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then also, it's funny. I have to like catch myself when I talk to people building cool products, because my head is I've always been sort of a dreamer and an entrepreneur, and I love coming up with business ideas and product
Yeah.
ideas. But
That's great.
but the other thing that I think of first, and maybe this is what you were talking about a second ago, is having the kind of thing where you wouldn't even realize till it's like, okay, parents, for example, have now been using this for years, and their kids are, I don't know, in high school now or whatever the age
Mhm.
is. And you could have, much like Facebook or Meta or Instagram or any of those platforms, will just automatically just kind of go, oh, here's this like nice little scrapbooky kind of video that is like through the years of
Right.
one of your kids, and
Yeah.
to just like automatically just sort of give somebody a great thing that just sort of shows the progression over the years, and just sort
Yep.
of just kind of exploring all the different ways you can kind of like repurpose and repackage audio in a way that people find valuable. That seems like a really kind of a fun challenge to kind of think
Yeah,
about
that's
that.
exactly what that's what I'm thinking in terms of looking back, over time and making it like a very nice packaged up like audio piece for people to kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
reminisce on and whatnot.
yeah.
Yeah.
um, Outside of what we talked about earlier of just not kind of having a big budget, everything is bootstrap, not even having a lot of time on marketing, what are, as a marketing guy, I feel like I have to ask some of these questions. Like, what are some of the most immediate pressing, just like big marketing challenges that you kind of feel today? Like, what are the
Mhm.
the marketing things that, like, I don't know, kind of keep you up at night, that you're trying to figure out? And maybe it's not something that, like today, but it could
Yeah.
be, very soon in the future.
Yeah. So we're not having too hard of a time getting new users. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it's more about retention is what's top of mind for
Mm.
us. Really kind of like tracking 90-day retention and making sure that people are coming back. And we've made some tweaks to the product in terms of the recording experience that have really dramatically positively impacted the percentage of users that do a recording right upon sign up or within the first 7 days, which is great. Because
Hmm.
otherwise, it's really hard to get someone to come back, right, and
Yeah.
try it when if they didn't try it right away. So they're getting a sense for like, oh, this is actually really easy to do a recording right away, and that's
Yeah.
helped us see in the data. We use Mixpanel. I don't know if you're familiar, but you can easily track like how frequently people are coming back, what they're doing,
Hmm.
and whatnot. So we're seeing a really good trend there, but like it's really important that they not just keep coming back in the first like couple weeks, but like it's
Yeah.
top of mind and it becomes a habit. And so that's kind of where our focus is. I think like obviously it'd be ideal. One challenge on when you're asking about the marketing side is the iOS side of the equation
Hmm.
because it's just very costly to get new
Yeah.
users. But I don't think that's a problem that we're able to solve necessarily, at
Right.
least now. So, we're happy with the users that are coming in. It's just about making sure they're satisfied with the product and it's top of mind that they keep coming back.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And that's like a whole other, segment of marketing up to existing users and customers,
Right.
and making sure that you're always improving the experience, maybe not necessarily the product, but just of everything kind of surrounding the product, and
Definitely. Definitely.
keeping them active. And sometimes that's, something founders kind of forget to do. And then,
Yeah, no,
and
it's
that
so
can bite you.
critical. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I can't believe I didn't ask this before. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of going way back in sort of the journey and the story. Um, in terms of how you decided to launch the product with like a free version and pricing and sort of revenue model, how, like, did you explore a bunch of different ways of doing it? How did you kind of land on the approach? Did it
Yeah.
change over time?
Yeah. That's a great question. So going into it had no sense for what what the model would be.
Yeah.
Uh, I think subscription businesses are great if you can make them
Hmm.
work,
Yeah.
for obvious reasons.
Yep.
But the real reason that we lean towards subscription versus and a freemium model, I can explain the freemium side, but subscription versus ad supported is that these are people's personal recordings and having random ads placed alongside them just doesn't feel
Yeah.
right. And I don't want to sell anyone's data. So like to me, it was like a very clear non-ad supported product.
Yeah.
Um, on the freemium side, I never wanted a grandparent to hit a paywall to listen to a recording.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was really important that there's always a free option. And I do think that it takes time for people to test out the product and hear back recordings and kind of get in the rhythm of things. And so that's why after 5 recordings that we thought it would make sense to charge. I mean, that's where all the
Hmm.
AI features come in, like the some recording summaries, question prompts, etc.
Hmm.
Um, but it was very intentional to make it a very low price point. Like it's $3 a month, right? Like it's
Yeah.
$39 a year, less than a coffee these days, like of to have any memory recorded at any moment, without any friction.
Hmm.
So the idea was to make it a no brainer. That being said, a subscription business is really tough.
Hmm.
People have subscription fatigue, and it's just hard to get people to pay for anything,
Yeah.
so it's a challenge, but I think like I still have conviction and I think we can make it work. And we're seeing really good signs, but it's uh, definitely was like anti the ad side and then thought that it was
Hmm.
important for people to have access, like anyone could have access to listen as well.
Yeah. 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 It's funny. I didn't even think of the path that would be of advertising, because it almost it almost sounds like a Black Mirror episode where you're trying to listen to a video, an audio of your daughter, but like first you have to listen to an ad from
Right, right.
Pepsi AC or something,
Yeah,
and that just sounds crazy. So that, yeah, that makes total sense. And yeah, and I wrestle with this all the time with getting involved with like really early stage companies there. It's like, okay, we've got this great idea for a subscription, I've sort of been beaten down by just like navigating that whole process, like
yeah,
a couple times, because yes, I think everybody wants the recurring revenue of a subscription, and it's
totally.
like you can project out all these exciting ways, but um, the pressure of like keeping those customers really engaged and
Yeah,
coming back, and not not in a highly manufactured way, but it just has to be natural, and that's can
Definitely.
be hard to do
Definitely.
for some
Yeah.
products. So, but at least I think with what you're building, it to me it just makes logical sense that it would work that way. So at least you probably have that going for you, that people get it right away of like why it's a subscription. So
Yeah. I mean, there's
that's
like
good.
obvious fee, like for storage, and like we have to,
Yeah,
there's like, yeah, fees on our side. So I hope
yeah,
people understand.
yeah, yeah. Um, last couple questions, and then
Yeah.
I will let you go. Just kind of taking a step back. This doesn't have to be anything specifically related to Leaf, or maybe just at any stage of kind of your journey. Like what advice would you give to some other founders that maybe are building in this space? And again, I'm sort of doing this podcast to try to talk to a lot of femtech founders. So those are
Yeah.
people who are building products for any stage of life, not not just young families, like all the way
Right.
like first breath to last breath and
Yep.
everything in between. So thinking of other founders kind of in that space, what advice would you give them?
Yeah.
What have you learned along the way? I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but
No, 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 that's fine. I mean, it depends what stage they are, but I think like for the people who have ideas, which I think is a lot of people, they get excited about their ideas, but they don't necessarily do that much about them, are intimidated by the whole process, and like just they like look too much in the future. My advice would be you have to just start, and literally like 10 minutes a day will get you so far as long as it's consistent. I think what I found personally with Leaf was like, like I mentioned, I was working at Google at the time, two young kids. There'd be a couple of days where I had so much energy and I would, give a lot to it at night, and then would get distracted for like a month and lose complete momentum.
hmm
And that's worse, I think, than consistently chipping away, and making progress and keeping it top of mind personally. Because then you're like actually talking to other people about it and exploring, and it's just like always something that's in the background that you're making progress on. So it depending on if the person has a full-time job or are just too intimidated by the process, like I would say just at least do a little bit a day. Um, the other thing I would say is try to surround yourself or reach out to mentors and people who've done something relevant or similar before. It could be in a completely different industry, just someone
hmm
who has, it could be like, they could be your therapy, they could be your advisor, they could be someone who connects you with other people that might be a good fit. But just like talk to people because it could be isolating otherwise. And there's people are very willing to help. And so I think really like reaching out to not like your network, like reach out to people that you trust and you want to talk to, and that
hmm
give you honest advice. That's kind of how I've always approached it.
Yeah, yeah, and you touched on it earlier too. I think when you talked about kind of reaching out to friends and family, like that's great. That's a necessary first step, but
Yeah.
a lot of them are gonna say, "Oh,
Like
that's a
that's a
great
great
idea.
idea.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. You should do it. You should do
Right.
it."
Right.
And then it's that next sort of layer, the next sort of like the concentric circles, the next one out of like
Exactly.
people who can give advice, who've been there, will figure out a way to give you the really good advice without you know, uh, unnecessarily like pushing you on or giving you so much advice that would make you stop. It's like
Right.
somewhere in the
Right.
middle. Um,
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah, that's great advice. Well, Barry, I really appreciate it. Appreciate the time sitting down. Before I let you go, like I'll be sure to kind of include, links so people can find your website, find
Cool.
you, on LinkedIn or whatever. But I guess before we go, just if you want to let people know where they can get in touch with you, where
Sure.
they can find the product. Again, my hope is a lot of people who listen to this podcast are in FamTech and sort
Hmm.
of are somewhat in the space. But my hope also is there's a lot of other people outside who might be interested in a product like what you're building. So
Yeah.
if
That'd
you
be
want to let
great.
them know kind of where to get in touch with you and
Sure. So I guess LinkedIn, I'm Barrie Farivar. I guess in the notes you'll have all the spelling and whatnot.
mhm.
We're at Share with Leaf on Instagram if you want to follow along. Um, let's see what else. Our website is www.sharewithleaf.com. We wanted Leaf, but it wasn't available, and I emailed the person who owns it many times, couldn't get it. But yeah, so everything is Share with Leaf. If you want to find us across various different channels.
All right. Well, Barry, thank you again. It was great chatting,
Likewise.
and
Thanks so much for having me.
yeah, let's definitely stay in touch. And I'm excited to full circle for this whole conversation. We started talking about myself and my wife and my two little kids, and
Yeah.
how we kind of always talked about something like Leaf without really knowing that's what you're building. So I'm excited to check it out. And
Cool.
yeah, let's definitely stay in touch.
Yeah, please share feedback anytime.
Okay, sounds
All
good.
right. Thanks so much. See you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.